Hi, this is Kerry with Filmmaker Central, and today we're going to talk about how to balance a GlideCam. So stay right there. We'll be right back. Hi everyone. If you haven't already watched my video on the difference between a GlideCam and a gimbal, be sure and check that out. I guess it's over here. Maybe it's over here. I'll have a link up here. There'll also be a link in the description. So if you want to kind of know the difference between a GlideCam and a gimbal, be sure and check out that article, and that'll help you figure out which one is which. But today we're going to talk about the GlideCam, and this is a very, very inexpensive GlideCam. This is from Newer, and I think this thing ran about $100. I'll have a link in the description, and it is a camera stabilizer. And in practice, we get our camera balanced on there, and we can get very, very smooth movements. The trick to these is getting them balanced properly. And with my particular system here, this is kind of a heavy setup for this size of GlideCam. This is a Sony a7 III. It's inside of a cage, and I have the Sony 18-105 lens on here. Now, before anyone starts going off on me about why do I have a crop sensor lens on a full frame body, and let me tell you the reason why. The reason is when using a GlideCam or even a gimbal, if you have a zoom lens, in almost all cases, as you change that focal length, the balance is going to change. That lens is going to move in or out, and it will drastically affect the balance. So every time you zoom in or zoom out and all of a sudden, your GlideCam is all wonky, you're back to balancing it over again. The 18-105 does not have that issue. Everything is internal, nothing moves, so the balance is not affected as I change zoom or focus. So that's one of the reasons why this is a great lens for this particular application. Now, I'm also shooting, I'm shooting 4K video on here, which is cropped to 16:9 in the camera. I don't need full frame for that. I can get everything I need with this lens. The only advantage to going to a better, quote unquote, better lens would be a wider aperture. This is an f4 lens. It's not an f2.8 or an f1.8 lens. It's an f4. So there's that. And but for video purposes, it's a great lens, and definitely when you're using a GlideCam or gimbal, it's fantastic because it won't change the balance. So that is awesome. So here I'm going to start by sliding the camera into the GlideCam, and I'll tighten it up. And what I want is to be able to lift it up without it dropping over. So this is telling me it's very front heavy. So I loosen it up, move the camera back, tighten it down. Wow, I got it pretty darn good right on like the second try. But I'm not going to trust myself. With the Sony a7 III and most mirrorless cameras, they have an electronic level in them. So I can look at the back of the screen and see if the camera is level. So now I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to see what's going on. I nailed it. So that was pretty interesting that I got it nailed so fast. On this particular unit, I have a screw on the side that allows me to adjust the camera forward and back, and I have an adjustment on the front here that allows me to shift the weight left or right. So once I have that balanced to where it's not tilting in one direction or another, the next thing I want to do is get my drop time right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with the weights pushed all the way up and try and get the handle here to be the center of gravity. So at this point, the camera side is heavy. So I'm going to pull out the weights a little bit. Now it's a little weight heavy. Put the weights in a little bit. It's still a little weight heavy. A little camera heavy there. Just barely a little camera heavy. Okay, so now I have it balanced on my handle point. Now at this point, I'm going to take and I'm going to pull the weights out about 1.5 inches. So now it's going to be weight heavy. And my goal is that when I let go, from the time that I let go here to the time it hits the bottom, I want it to be in between 1.5 and 2 seconds. So okay, that's right around 1.5 seconds, 1001, 1000, okay, so about 1.5 seconds, which is going to be almost ideal weight. And I want to make sure that my weights are kind of in line with my lens here. Get that dialed in. And I did manage to shift my camera a little bit. I didn't have that tightened down quite enough. So, a couple more quick adjustment tests. Okay, now I've got it situated. And I want to be able to move forward and back without the camera moving. I want to be able to go side to side without the camera moving. And at that point, I should be in pretty good shape to go. Now, this is not a super high quality GlideCam. This is a cheap GlideCam. It's one of the cheapest that you can buy. Like I said, it's around $100. So the bearings aren't going to be as good as something else. And one way to kind of demonstrate that is I'm going to spin 360 degrees. And if this was a really top-notch gimbal, the camera should remain facing the front. So you see I'm off a little bit. So not the best bearings in it, but that's okay. I just have to get used to working with it. Now, once we have it balanced, how do we use it? And a lot of people that I see the first time, they're like, okay, now what? How do I control the camera? Well, you take your thumb and your forefinger about 1 inch or so underneath the hinge, and we just tap the direction that we want to go. Nice, gentle tapping, just to give it some motion there. Because if we hold it, we're completely defeating the purpose, and we're going to add movement to it. So we want as little contact with it as possible, but just enough to get it to go the direction that we want or for it to hold its position. Now, one of the downsides to a GlideCam is trying to get angled shots. And there's a couple solutions to it. I actually don't have it right here with me, but there's a tilt head that you can get that you can put on top that will allow you to angle the camera. But trying to do it live, that's when things get a little tricky. And for that, that just takes practice of being able to come up on a shot and tilt it back, or come up and tilt something forward. The key being not to put too much pressure on here and introduce vibration. If things are balanced right, it doesn't take very much effort to get the camera to tilt. Now, rolls, that can be a little difficult, but that doesn't happen very often. Typically, we want that roll to be as tight as possible. We don't want a lot of roll in our footage unless you're going for a Dutch tilt or something. And I've seen people do that with a GlideCam quite successfully. Again, it just takes practice. Don't expect that you're going to set your GlideCam up on the day of your shoot for the very first time and go and get great footage. It's going to take some practice to get it dialed in and to get the movements down. It's also very different. If you're not used to a gimbal or a GlideCam, there's a lot of weight involved. And I mean, this whole setup may only weigh about 4.5 or 5 pounds, but when you're holding it, it's going to get heavy over time. So kind of think about that. You also don't want your elbow to be way out because you're going to end up getting a lot of bobble. You want that elbow tucked into your side for support. So then when we're moving, it's just very gentle movements, very gentle touching, so that we keep the camera pointed where we wanted it to, or turning in however way we want it to turn. If I can, I'm going to start it moving and let go, let kind of inertia do its thing, and then maybe stop it at the end depending on the shot. So that is the basics of setting up a GlideCam. If you've never used one before, like I said, it's going to take a little bit of practice. Don't be afraid of it. Get out and shoot. Shoot anything. Just get out and shoot with it. Get used to using it before you take it out on a shoot. And in terms of the shot, you are going to get typically a little natural movement to it. If that's not what you're looking for, then you probably want to look at getting a gimbal. If you want a little more natural of a it's kind of hard for me to even describe. I call it organic, more of an organic feel. Often when I'm walking with somebody, or that is pretty much the one big use case that I see, is if I'm trying to walk with somebody, they're going to have some movement to them. And if I have a perfectly stabilized gimbal following somebody when they're walking, I just don't feel it looks quite right. That's where a GlideCam is going to give a little natural movement. It may be very, very subtle, but it will have some natural movement that will just give a much better feel to what you're trying to accomplish. So check out the gimbals, check out GlideCams. Again, I've got a video that compares the two so you kind of understand what the difference is. And if you're trying to set up a GlideCam for the first time, hopefully this will give you some tips on how to get it balanced and set up properly so that you can make the most of it. Thanks for watching, everybody. This has been Kerry with Filmmaker Central. Be sure and check out the website at filmmakercentral.com. Join the Facebook group for all the discussions and other news, other things that people are posting, some collaboration things going on there, meetups going to be happening soon, all kinds of cool stuff happening at facebook.com/groups/Filmmaker Central. This has been Kerry. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you later. Bye-bye.